American community tell the truth about our sexuality. But then the follow-up question is this: what price do we pay in telling that truth? And what role does the church play in perpetuating unsafe sexual behavior? Homophobia in the African American community has become more than merely a spiritual crisis. It is now in our community a public health crisis. Of course now, airing the problem publicly will be viewed by many in the African American community as airing out dirty laundry or putting our business on the street. But when 42% of the country's homeless youth identify as LGBTQ, and approximately 90% within this group comprise of African American and Latino youth from urban enclaves like New York City, Boston, Los Angeles, let me tell you this: the problem is already on the street. Why? Because our kids are on the street. Their sexual orientation and gender expressions do not make these youth children of a lesser God, and they deserve better than to be made homeless. Thank you, Eva. Okay. But the church has both unapologetically and unabashedly closed its doors to them, despite the fact that these kids look to the church for help. One of the reasons for the high transmission of HIV and AIDS in the Black community is attributed to the Black church. When the New York Native, a now defunct gay newspaper, in its May 18, 1981 issue, first reported on the virus found in gay men, then known as GRID, gay-related immune deficiency, the editorial stated this: even if the disease first becomes apparent in gay men, it is not just a gay disease. We've learned that because today the face of HIV/AIDS is a Black heterosexual system. And know this, and really know this: women with AIDS are as unwelcome in the Black church as the LGBT community. Go ahead, Eva, say amen, honey. Okay, thank you. It is alarmingly high among Black teens too. 17% of the U.S. teen population is African American, but Black teens make up 70% of teens tested HIV positive. And with African Americans at younger and younger ages being infected with the AIDS virus, the life expectancy rate of African Americans will decline. Soon we will no longer expect today's youth to be tomorrow's elders in the community. Another reason for our high transmission of the HIV and AIDS virus is download culture, suicide among our youth, but also our closeted gay ministers. Let me give you just two recent examples that were in the news. Called by Southern Poverty Law Center as one of the most virulent homophobic Black ministers in the religiously based anti-gay movement. I wish I had written that, but the Southern Poverty Law Center wrote this. Bishop Eddie Long has been proven for some time, okay, because it was on the Chitlin circuit before it hit the news, that Brother Man was gay. When the news broke out about Long's alleged sex capades with two males, following immediately by a third allegation, while they were enrolled in his ministry for teen boys, those inside of Long's stained glass closet at New Birth Missionary Church outside the Lantern knew of Bishop's predilection for boys, whom he called his spiritual son. Sadly though, Long, like so many African American ministers on the down low, have erected that lowly pulpit denouncing gays while using their clerical authority to court and to cover them. During his infamous anti-gay march in December of 2004 titled Stop the Silence, denouncing same-sex marriage with Bernice King, he said said this. In essence, God made Eve to help Adam replenish the earth. Woman has the canal, everything else is an exit. Cloning, homosexuality, and lesbianism are spiritual abortions. Homosexuality is a manifestation of the fall of man. Long is not alone to be gay or rumored gay and denouncing homosexuality. For example, speaking at the November 2009 Church of God in Christ Convocation for Young Men, Pastor Donnie McClurkin told his audience this: God did not call you to such a perversion. Your only hope is Jesus Christ. Were it not for this Jesus, I would be a homosexual today. This God is a deliverer. The poster boy, really, for African American ex-gay ministries attributes his homosexuality to being raped. Twice as a child, first at the age of 8, and then again in his teens. Confusing, however, same-gender sexual violence with homosexuality, McClurkin misinterprets the molestation as a reason for his gay sexuality. His testifies is what I call him. That he is cured and been delivered from God is the kind of nonsense and pain that a lot of our youth, whether they're black or white, believe can be done. I want to quickly get to this, that the black church is really uniquely positioned to significantly affect the knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs and behaviors within their congregations, and certainly by extension, the black community. The church can help its congregants live their sexual lives by devising an African American sex education curriculum where churches embrace the concept that sexuality is God-given, an integral part of being human, and at the core of how we interact with one another. Research has shown that sexual education programs in black churches have delayed the onset of sexual activity among teens, reduced the number of partners among teens and adults, and have decreased significantly the incidence of sexually transmitted disease and unplanned pregnancy. Our silence around the issue of identity, sexual practices, and the lack of a pastoral care to people deemed as outsiders are factors contributing to the kind of crazy, make no common sense behavior and theology that I see in the black church. So these are some of the things, just 5 things that I think that the black church can do. The black church needs to explore how African American faith communities can embrace a liberating, healthy, and holistic understanding of human sexuality. Number 2, it can gain new ways of educating and providing support to help our women, men, and youth to refrain from activities and behaviors associated with the transmission of HIV/AIDS. 3, it needs to create models of pastoral care for its LGBT community. 4, it needs to advance the dialogue of human sexuality and sexual practices in the black community. And lastly, the church needs to engage its clergy as well as its laity to ensure that the doors of its church on any given moment is really open to all who seek. Long, Bishop Eddie Long, has not created the homophobic climate in the black church, but he certainly has contributed to it. With a membership of over 25,000, Long's church is the largest African American megachurch in the Southeast. And as the largest, it can begin with his sex scandal to affect change by embracing a liberating, healthy, and holistic understanding of God and human sexuality, the nexus of God and human sexuality. And this is what I say in my closing note, that in so doing, if that church would do that, if Eddie Long would do that, Long would be creating a model of pastoral care, not only for heterosexuals and homosexuals, but you know what? Most importantly, for himself.